All right, so we're back for another live stream here at let's say somewhere in the Macroverse. I'm Evan Matthews, co-founder of Macroverse, and it's time to get back into the world of the Macronauts. What are the Macronauts? If you're not following or hadn't heard of this yet, Macronauts are the explorers of the Macroverse. They will ultimately be the official PFP collection of the Macroverse. We've got a bunch of fun things planned as to how they integrate at the story level, at the platform level, at a tech level. Lots of fun things we're going to do that have never been done before, as far as we know. But at this stage, we're kind of developing the framework, the stories. I'm very slowly developing the artwork for it as I put myself on the hook to create this collection. Having worked with multiple artists on different collections now, I thought it was only fair to throw myself into the fire to create the art for this collection. So I have been doing some exploration in that regard and haven't shared any of that yet. I'm still not going to do that tonight. I've come up with a couple things I don't want to share because honestly, I am afraid someone else will take it and do it before I get a chance to complete it and put it out. So there's going to be a component of this, hey, Tiny Universe, GMGM, that is a surprise, but I think people will be delightfully surprised with what I have in mind. Also going to spend a lot of time perfecting the art. So this is a collection from an art standpoint that I would not expect anytime soon, but I do promise to have it out in this year, have it out 2023. So hello, Lady Valor. What we've been doing in past sessions, which have all been recorded, have been more on the storytelling side. So thinking through some of the origins for Macronauts. Where do they come from? Why are they exploring the Macroverse? Who might you be as a Macronaut? That's part of the kind of meta narrative that we're building here. And the first content that we have planned around this series is an anthology series in audio, an audio series that will function much like a radio play, something that explores these concepts in the universe without having to connect a specific visual to each character. But I think it will also give people a sense of the types of stories and adventures that these characters can go on. And then as they create their Macronaut, and yes, I said create your Macronaut, you might have a sense of who that character is going on into more adventures across the Macroverse. So this is going to be a long gestating project. I don't want to pretend that we're going to have this out immediately. We're also working on a ton of other things. So in my duties as co-founder at Macroverse, a lot of my time goes other places. Right now, we are deep in the final testing for our platform release. And some of you have heard me say that multiple times, but it is very true. I spend a good amount of my time every day at this point, just going through and testing, uploading content, making sure that it's showing properly, making sure that the things are connected the way they need to be connected. We've built something I'm very excited about that is actually quite robust and is going to do a lot for our projects, for partner projects, for all dates on the mobile app. No, getting a warning that I'm having a connection issue. I hope that's not actually the case. But lots to come. We've got a bunch more announcements. Some of you know that we're working with the Wanderers on some storytelling and comics on that side. So very excited how things are developing there. And there is going to be session 2 of kind of our storytelling masterclass happening in the Wanderers Discord tomorrow for anyone that would like to jump in there. And by the way, you don't have to have a Wanderer to come participate in these sessions. You do have to have a Wanderer to have one of your stories greenlit into a comic, but you don't have to have one to come participate. And so anyone and everyone is very welcome. And given where the market is right now, not a bad time to pick up a Wanderer, gotta say. Not financial advice, but we're doing some cool stuff over there. So everyone is invited to come play. Everyone is invited to come play with everything that we're doing. This is not meant to be an exclusive club. It's meant to be a very inviting club around creativity and world building and franchise development and starting to learn how content is made across all kinds of mediums. One thing, so what are we doing tonight? And then I have one other thing I want to share. One thing, all right, what are we doing tonight? What am I doing tonight? This is just going to be some sketching and some exploration on the Macronauts side, starting to share a little bit of the development process. You've seen me in previous live streams focus on some more finished art. Some of this might turn into that, but I just wanted to spend a little time sharing some of the exploration, kind of visual development process. It's something else I've done a decent amount in my career on the character design side. And you'll see, a lot of this stuff starts very rough. You're just trying to capture ideas on paper. I look at it very much the equivalent. That's the drawing equivalent of, starting to jot down ideas for a story or for a script. So, these might be pretty rough. Maybe this will be something we mint and give away at some point or something like that. But I was going to just spend a little time on this anyway. So I figured, why not share the process? And then finally, if you stick around till the end of the stream, for anyone that makes it to the end, I will give you a little sneak peek of work in progress on the platform side. So we're at a point now where I can kind of show you what the widescreen version of some of the comics look like. And they're fantastic. So I definitely recommend sticking around for that. It's the thing that makes me the most excited is how you actually consume stories and content on this platform. It's a lot of cool things, but that's number one. You got to love these stories, or else why are we doing this? So stick around to the end and we'll share that little preview. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up this canvas here. We're back in Clip Studio, and actually going to need to adjust my Cintiq a little bit here. So I didn't do this ahead of time tonight. Hold on just a second while I arrange this workspace. Oh, and then while I do that, the other thing I was going to share, which I just thought was an interesting anecdote from the point of view of kind of what's going on in the world of creativity. And Chris, I see you in the waiting room. I'll bring you up here in just a second. What's going on in the world of creativity? So a lot of people know, or if you don't know, you should know that there's a massive writer's strike going on in Hollywood right now. And it's looking more and more likely like the Actors Guild, the SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and the DGA even may end up joining with the writers to strike against what I tend to agree are some pretty unfavorable terms in the current way that film and television production has gone. There's a podcast that I love. It's okay. I see your chat, Chris. All good. There's a podcast I love called Script Notes, which I cannot recommend enough. It's John August, who, among many other things, wrote the Charlie's Angels movies and Go, and Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl and most recently The Last of Us, which I think are both amazing series. Fantastic podcast, lots of craft, kind of why you make the decisions that you make as a writer, screenwriting in particular. Cannot recommend it enough. And they just had Chris McQuarrie on, who is the writer and now very well known also as a director of things like the last Mission Impossible movies, and has become kind of the go-to for most of Tom Cruise's star vehicles these days. But started as a writer, and this last episode, there's a fantastic conversation between the three of them. And McQuarrie was basically saying, these things like AI and shorter production schedules and a lot of the things that are concerns for these guilds at the moment, yes, a lot of those things will come to pass. And so now is kind of a now or never moment to, get some of these things put in a context that's more favorable to creatives. And a lot of what I care about in general is having things that are more favorable to creatives. But the thing that he said, which I think is very relevant to this process, is that the future belongs to the writer producer. and you could call that the writer creator. But I think the important point there is that just writing the material is not going to be enough, that you need to understand how to take the idea from idea to finish line, to a real tangible thing. So in the case of film and television, that's not only being able to write the story and tell the story and create the blueprint, but also understanding production and film and staging and casting, and how do you put these pieces together to bring something to the final product. In the case of comics or animation or any of the things that we're more focused on at the moment, it's being able to take that idea and put the right team together, bring the right creative elements together, understand how that process works, and bring it across the finish line. So I think that's part of the magic of what we're trying to build here, is sort of a system where you can use your assets, your characters, the things that you own in this ecosystem, bring them into creative collaborations through creating stories, creating characters in these different worlds, have those things become produced as content through this participation process. And then really our intent is to bring you along for that process so that you get that peek behind the curtain, you get that kind of understanding of how all these pieces come together, so that the next time you can do more and more of that yourself. And it's one of the things that's kind of a shame in what's happening in the film and television industry, television in particular. The whole industry is built on sort of an apprentice system where you start out as a young writer in a TV writer's room, and then you learn production by actually being a part of that process. And all of the showrunners that have risen to the top of the industry at this point, most of them came through that process, learning from someone else as they grew into understanding all the facets of production. And one of the ways the studios are shooting themselves in the foot right now is they've eliminated a lot of that apprenticeship, that kind of organic learning, by changing the way that writers' rooms work and not having writers on the actual, engaged in the actual process of producing television. Instead, they're turning in scripts and moving along. And you're kind of chopping out the legs of the next generation of people that will rise up to be the next round of showrunners. So it's a short-sighted strategy in that regard. And I think, once again, an important place for us to kind of keep in mind that we want to share the process and the knowledge and the things that we've learned with you, and then hopefully you share that with others, and that this is a way that we encourage people to not only have great ideas, but to see those ideas come to fruition in a real way. So that's enough of me talking at the moment. Chris, I'm going to invite you up here. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but just hang out. So with that, let's start making some lines on paper, although digital paper. So I don't know if that counts. So for this, I like to go to pencil tools. I always do some little scribbles just to adjust brush sizes and kind of see where I'm at.
Hey, Evan, can you hear me all right?
Oh, I can hear you all right. Hello.
Okay, hey, I'm going to go back to listening. I just wanted to comment on what you were just saying, because I personally have no traditional training. Traditional training in writing. It's just been a passion and an interest. And what got me to where I am today is learning from others. So when you're talking about the whole apprenticeship program, or that model, without something like that, I don't know if you knew this, but Max Rommel is really the one that I kind of latched onto once I started getting into this, and I've kind of felt like he's been mentoring me in a lot of ways. And so you've created an environment where that is still possible. And so when you're talking about the industry getting rid of that platform, people like me would not be here without it.
I think that's an important thing to say over and over and over again. And hats off to you for taking the opportunity, and to Rommel for creating that opportunity, and just everyone involved. I think it's so important. We all have people. I think anyone that has accomplished anything has people they can point back to and say, this is part of the road that got me here. And when you're in an industry that's about shared creative knowledge, stuff is really important.
Well, and it's interesting as well because I don't if you didn't know I currently have been in the construction industry for the past 15 years.
Yeah,
and that is another industry that is slowly just dying because people aren't interested in taking the long road. And what I mean by that is exactly what you're just talking about, that apprenticeship, starting at the very bottom and learning and years later until you from a gaming term, level up. You gain enough skills that you can then get an advancement in your apprenticeship, and then you become a journeyman, and then you become not a master. I forgot what's in between that. So you have to work that line, because you can't just go to the top. You can't be the best right away. It doesn't work that way. Even if you are the best out there, you still need to because the best untrained person is still untrained. They're not going to have the skills to cope with what's out there in the industry. And so it's just very important for everyone who listens to this or doesn't listen to this, but they need to hear it anyways. It's an important process. It's imagine a child just thinking that he's going to be an adult when he's 5 years old. That's the equivalent, right?
I mean, I have had one of those, but yes.
Yeah, I've got 3 kids right now, and I'm learning. I'm still an apprentice parent. I'm having to learn.
100%. No, I think it's critically important.
Anyways, I'll let you get back to it. I'm gonna go back on mute. I gotta get these kids down.
Absolutely. Keep apprenticing. So I was starting to say, Chris, thank you for that. I was starting to say, so this is blue pencil. It's funny to me. It's great, but it's funny to me. So many of our digital tools do come from an analog world in some way. So blue pencil exists because in traditional printing, it doesn't reproduce. So if you've ever seen original, especially like comic pages or animation, a lot of time you'll see people working in blue pencil. And the reason for that is that you can take a black pencil or a pen and ink or draw right over the top of it, put it on a photo machine, photocopier, or I'm sure about printing press, but certainly on a photocopier. And then it actually doesn't show up. It doesn't reproduce in the photocopy. So you just get the black. So that's a reason why you see people use blue. And then in animation, you'll often see people go from blue to red because it helps to kind of define different areas or different zones of things that they're working on, or help to clarify like, oh, the arm is animating this way and that's in blue, but the head is animating this way and that's in red. Or you want to, call out certain elements that are doing different things. That helps to clarify the motion there. So anyway, interesting factoid for why blue. Greetings, Rommel. Yes, Lady Valor. That is my goal. Learn something new. So, this is a good example of I have no idea what I'm doing. A lot of the time when I'm doing this kind of sketching or kind of exploration, it's like I really am just kind of initially starting without much of a sense of what the thing is going to be. So, these are kind of roughly characters, kind of trying to find some kind of a pose that I like, and since this is going to be sort of a Macronaut exploration, I want to include some type of jump core portal device, thinking kind of generation 2 in here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then, revisit some of the earlier live streams in regards to that. I didn't like any of that, so that's why I'm just getting a new layer. So I think, we'll focus more on kind of one character for this purposes. And again, not necessarily taking this to fully finished art, but just, want to get kind of a sense of what might one of these guys look like. So actually, let's get a little participation from those that are watching. So should we go male character or female character? First one to answer is gonna get gonna go that direction. Looking at the chat right now. So come on, somebody say you want a male or a female Macronaut here. Okay, Chris, female. Very good. All right, so I will say that this is not meant for any type of offense, but I tend to draw kind of naked people that then get clothes on as the drawing progresses. So if we're gonna make this a female character, there's going to be a little anatomical lesson here as we go forward. Nothing crazy, but I gotta like figure out what the anatomy is as I put these things down on paper. So we got some boobs here, and that helps also determine center line of your character. So we all have the kind of the neck down to belly button is kind of the center line of the character, and so that helps to determine the pose a lot. So if you've got someone that's kind of leaning this way is one thing. If you want to do something where like we've got the person turned this way, then that would create a different kind of center line. So that would kind of create a completely different pose, which I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to kind of go relatively standard, since this is, again, less about kind of finished art and more about kind of starting to figure out some of the character design. Somebody give me an idea for what kind of, everyone said female, so good. Everybody, yes, life drawing new models was an experience for a lot of people when I was at school. Definitely, like the first time you walk into a life drawing class with nude models, I mean, I'm certainly speaking from my own experience, but I think for a lot of people, it is slightly shocking because you're just not used to hanging out in a room. Well, most of us are not used to just hanging out in a room with people that are naked for just hanging out naked while the rest of you are clothed. And especially when it's 10 or 20 or 40 people kind of all circled around those one or two naked people. I will also say that once you get used to it, like life drawing from live models is one of the best things that you can do if you're interested in drawing. It's much different interpreting that than looking at things that are flat. So, all right. So then somebody give me an idea. We're talking Jump Core Generation 2. What kind of form factor does that take? Like, how does she carry that around? Hello, Matt. How does she carry, this kind of carryable, but not yet, not yet hand-sized or pocket-sized portal device? How would she bring that with her on adventures? Somebody give me an idea. All right. Somebody give me an idea, or I'm going to have to make it up myself. Can be creative. All right. No, I don't see any comments. Oh, okay. Tiny Eunice. Yes, female. Catching up. Female. Sling Pack. Chris. Oh, 80s beatbox. Matt. All right. I got to go. Boombox. All right, I'm gonna take those two ideas and combine them. So let's say that she has some kind of a sling, and then let's say that there's some kind of a boomboxy kind of apparatus here that is kind of on the, maybe it's on the side, and maybe that suggests that like her arm should actually be kind of interacting with this thing in some way. So again, keeping it very rough at this point. All right. I think that's kind of cool. And again, this is very rough at this stage, but we'll get something kind of going here. All right. And somebody give me kind of a key article of clothing. Like, is she wearing like a hoodie or a jacket or a silly hat? What should she be wearing for kind of a key look, key vibe? Tank top, t-shirt, jacket with holes in it from going through a rough part, tank top. All right. I can do that. So now we're going to have like a little bit of a Laura Croft vibe here. But I think that works. Somebody give me a superhero helmet, Matt. how would we incorporate that? All right, I'm gonna take a little creative license and say maybe not superhero helmet. This is just me personally. I don't see the Macronauts as much as superheroes as us, but what can we do that has a helmet-y kind of vibe to it that might make sense here? So maybe it's maybe it's not so much a helmet. As much as, it could be something she's picked up along the way. So, that does suggest some kind of a story. But maybe it's more of a kind of like headdress of some kind. So let's say this is something she's kind of picked up in whatever land she's currently in. So let's say maybe she's in kind of a GSA adjacent, sci-fi world at the moment. So she could have some kind of cool alien-esque headdress. And then just because I'm gonna think the flow of it is gonna be cool, we're gonna give her some kind of long hair. And it's feeling like, kind of in the right universe. No pun intended. Excuse me, my Macronaut is saving kids from lack of ice cream. I think, Lady Valor, I like the way you're thinking. My kids would certainly like the way that you're thinking. All right. So what about anything like glasses or goggles or, should she have anything else that's kind of face adjacent, let's say? Face adjacent might be the name of the trait. I don't know the name of the category of traits. Let's see. Oh, tilted beret. I see that as an option as well. But I think we got some headgear going here. I'm feeling like maybe she's got some sunglasses. Maybe she's come through the portal into this world with some type of glasses or goggles, and has something to show for this adventure. All right. And then I feel like, she's manipulating this portal device that she's got here. Maybe she's kind of plugging in some coordinates. This doesn't feel very boomboxy. It needs to be kind of more square to be a little more boomboxy for that suggestion. But anyway, if she's doing something here, maybe we've got some energy kind of coming out. And that would, of course, be creating some kind of a portal. What's a Macronaut without a portal? Cycling glasses. Sleek AR glasses. All right, I see. Sleek AR glasses or cycling glasses. Kind of more in cycling glasses range at the moment. My wife is a marathoner and Ironman athlete, so I'm very familiar with having cycling glasses around. Maybe this Macronaut has that as well. Backstory. Let's see. All right, so to me, this is actually pretty close to what I would be kind of trying to hone in on. So what I'm going to do is kind of go to a slightly more refined version of this now. I will go to the red to kind of make some distinction here. And then again, not going for kind of final art here, but I can start to think about, what might some of this stuff look a little bit more like, as opposed to just basic shapes, but maybe something that's a little more refined. And then for me, like this really is my character design process. So if I'm given, if I'm hired to create characters as I have been in the past, or if I'm doing stuff for ourselves, it's like I'll start kind of in this very rough, kind of visual brainstorming kind of mode. Sometimes, I did one project a while ago, which was very heavy character design. One of my favorite things I did, actually, when I think about it very, very fondly, is kind of this whole world building character design project. And, I spent a good amount of time actually just watching movies and with a, paper sketchbook and a Sharpie. And so all I would let myself do was just, use that Sharpie in the sketchbook and do these very bad drawings, but really just very loose, very fast explorations around who these characters could be in this storyline, and ended up with some really cool stuff that I wouldn't have probably come up with otherwise had I not gone through that process. So there can be a lot of benefit to kind of letting things be sloppy and loose and not trying to get things right initially. Okay, so Matt, how are you feeling about that that headgear at this point? Is it doing the job? Not quite a superhero helmet, but maybe we're getting there. Feel like we want to make a little more connection. Like if we're trying to tell a story with like, why does she have this interesting helmet-y headgear kind of thing? Then it might be good to say something else about that. So I'm wondering if maybe she's also got some kind of maybe something on her arm, or there's something else that's sort of in a similar technological style that maybe connects those dots a little bit. So let's see. Maybe she'll have like I'm thinking she has something on her arm over here. That's again sort of like could imagine like she's been, I don't know, maybe she's become queen of some queen or princess of some civilization here that has awarded her with their techno crown and some kind of cool armband. Something like that. Feeling like she probably didn't come here without more clothes than just a tank top. So maybe she's also kind of left a jacket behind, and I'm feeling like maybe gloves are in order here as well, potentially. Or at least, some kind of maybe she's got like a watch of some kind that's also probably stopped at this point. So Tiny, this is where those 100 hands really come in handy, is starting to have a little library of hand poses in your back pocket to pull out. Let's see. Any other comments while I'm doing this. Like if anybody has any other ideas to throw in, I'm checking. So if one thing we can always do to help tell a little bit of more of a story is give things little holes or rips. So some things happened where she hasn't just kind of come through completely unscathed. See, there's like a little keypad under here that she's doing something with. This is going to have to attach in some way too. So there'll be some kind of attachment there. And then kind of the back of that too. And actually, just to, again, kind of play up this idea of having received some kind of artifact here, it'll be mostly off screen, but let's say that maybe she's also gotten some kind of, alien spear or something like that. All right. And I'm not going to worry too much about what she's wearing. Some kind of black pants or something like that. Okay. What are we missing? Tech-filled gauntlets that picks up elements of the headband thingy. Do like that idea. I don't think it works in this particular context, but I like that idea. Good job, Matt. And thank you. All right, what else are we missing? I feel like, want to make her a little more unique. She's feeling a little generic at the moment to me. We will get this kind of overlapping stuff, like energy of some kind. Portal again in the background. Kind of like the idea. I hadn't thought of this before, but kind of like the idea that like this gem core is kind of shooting energy of some kind out both the front and the back. It's kind of an interesting idea. Which maybe or maybe not you don't want to be in the way of. Okay, so now I think we can kind of hide that blue layer, and I'm going to do a ton more with this, but I'll say like what's also fun about kind of being looser with this stuff is I just kind of let go of being as concerned about some of the kind of technical line work or things like that. So not as worried about things being as precise as I sometimes am or sometimes obsess over, which I do obsess over from time to time. Looking for a brush at the moment. And we'll kind of bring this down again. And then decide on a brush of some kind. I'm going to not go with black lines. I'm going to go with like a dark purple. That's too big. I think if you've seen me do this on other streams, one thing I used to have like a set of favorite brushes I'd kind of go to, and I just don't have them anymore. So I don't know if they're just lost in all of the brushes that I've collected at this point, or if I've misplaced them or what. But it's like I used to just go like, oh, it's this, and then it's this, and this. But because I don't do as much drawing as I used to on a day-to-day basis, I don't just have those things at my fingertips. And so I spend way more time than I should finding a brush that I want for just kind of basic standard things like inking things or putting down ink lines. And I say that on the back of, hey, let's just be loosey-goosey with this. I realize that. So let's see. I still want it to be kind of a nice clean line to some degree. Man, I'm, again, just taking way too long going through this. Let's see. No. So many options. So many options. Both the blessing and the curse, again, of working digitally. So many options. Those are all pencils. So, yeah, it's going to be something in here. Brush pen. What's that look like? No. Don't really want these kind of rough ones in this particular case. I want something that allows for some kind of thick to thin. I guess we'll just go with something simple like this. So bring that down a little bit. That's too much. All right, somewhere in there. I was thinking tats as well. What does patch mean? Maybe she has some interest. Oh, patch on her shirt. Yeah, I like patch. And I was definitely thinking tats as well. It seems like if you're going to show your arms like this, you might as well have some art on there. So as I'm working on this part, throw down some ideas for interesting tats. And then, I'm not at this point, like kind of just still riffing on this. So I'm going to continue to kind of do some other stuff that isn't even in the line work, but, put this little jewel on here. Continue to refine this and make her a little bigger. Now be more like this. One thing about kind of thinking about thick lines and thin lines in inking, at least my approach to it, is that the things that are closest to us get thicker lines. The things that are further away from us generally get thinner lines. So it creates a little additional depth in the way that we perceive kind of where things are in space. Of course, the other way to use that is anything that wants to feel like it's got a little more literal weight to it or is in shadow. That can also be the recipient of a thicker line. Something's not quite right about this part, but we'll figure it out. And so part of the purpose of this in a traditional kind of character design setting would be, you come up with something that's kind of rougher and then more refined, and then you probably do, or I should say, I would probably do, 5 or 6 variations on her in kind of different poses, different outfits, different variations of, kind of some of these elements, until we found something that everyone involved in the process felt like, yes, that is it. I'm starting to make the glasses more part of the helmet. Yeah, we'll do that after all. Getting the I feel like getting faces right and making them feel appealing is kind of job number 1 at this stage. It's like if you can start to feel like you can connect with the character there, then I feel like you're a long way down the right road, in my opinion. Wait a second, Team Jacob. I'm catching up on what you guys are talking about. Oh, we're getting into Twilight now. Got it. All right. Didn't know we were going there, but fair enough. Oh, you know what? I also breaking my own rule here. Always be saving. So it takes a moment. These files are big. So this is Macronaut exploration. Just save it to my downloads at the moment. Actually, no, this should go in the Macronauts folder. So let's see. Yeah, I'll worry about that later. Downloads. Save. Ooh, lightning bolt on the neck. I like that. That's in keeping with our theme here. Letting my 90s image influences show here a little bit with this kind of straps and things, but yeah, can't go wrong. All right, we'll come back to the rest of the way that attaches as we get more towards how her hand and things get in there. Oops. Yeah. Saving again. Can I offer her as an open mint for 48 hours? She's awesome. Maybe that's not a bad idea. You think about that, Matt. But I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. The other thing I will say I spent a lot of time working on is getting good at drawing hair. And I think it's one of the more challenging things to do well. It's certainly very stylized, but I think the key is to think of it as clumps or sections and then being able to pull out what pieces are within those sections to create something that feels like it flows and then helps the composition as well is the key. Ta-da. All right. Let's see. Let's get that hand in there because that's going to now dictate a lot of kind of overlapping and things. Well, actually, I'm going to do this side first. When I said I didn't intend for this to be a very refined drawing, I'm finding it's kind of working out the other way. I am liking her as well. All right. Much. Okay. I don't know if anyone has started watching Silo on Apple TV Plus, but I watched the first episode last night, and I have to say I quite enjoyed it, and now I want to know what is going on. So if a pilot is meant to get you interested in the world, they did it for me. These kind of like squared off fingers are a little bit of a Mike Mignola thing where it's like gloves as opposed to hands. Or I suppose hands in gloves as opposed to hands out of gloves. All right. So what I haven't worked out here in the sketch is how does this harness thing actually attach to her jump core here? I know I want her to have this kind of keyboard style thing here. And there's something that she's manipulating with this finger here. So let's see. It's a little awkward, but I like the hand position. So let's say that in a very convoluted way of operating this jump core, maybe she didn't put the plans together just right, that she downloaded off the internet. There's like a little keyboard section here, and then she's got to manipulate a little joystick thing here to set the exact coordinates to where she's going to be hopefully jumping next. And then that will give us a little more of the mechanism to create this connection point to this harness. Whoops. Don't want to be out of memory, but my computer likes to throw up that warning even when it's not really true sometimes. So I'm not going to be too worried about it at the moment. Okay, something like that. Okay. Let's see. This is a small snippet of what Macronauts are going to be, yes. And I think I'm going to do something that is different than anyone has ever done before. I honestly do. So I'm pretty excited about it. It is going to take a while, but it's going to be awesome. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate Matt's comments. I see you and very much appreciated. Something else I'm always conscious of trying to avoid is what are called tangents. So if you don't know this term as it relates to art, a tangent is lines that make sense as far as kind of individual components of something, but that flatten things out when they are put together in a particular way. And I'll give a little quick example that I can then kind of erase. So if you have, let's say, a character's head, and then there's let's say a wall behind them, let's say a brick wall behind them, and you're putting in the bricks, and then this row of bricks lines up right at the top of the head. So, yes, you have two things that are technically correct, head, brick wall, but because these two lines essentially connect, that creates what's called a tangent. And so what happens is visually it flattens the two planes into one thing. Your eye starts to see it as one flat object as opposed to perceiving it as having depth. And so the alternative is to make sure that those lines don't connect in that way, that they're overlapping. And so then if I have this up here, now you very much perceive it as one thing in front of another instead of two things that have become flattened into one plane. So I'm always on the lookout for tangents. I'm sure there are people that I've worked with that get it becomes a joke when I'm like, oh, there's a tangent, we got to fix that. And even when we're putting stuff together for the app, there are times when we're looking out for, even when you're putting in word balloons, are you creating any tangents with where the word balloons overlap with the art. So definitely something to be aware of. So like that would be a tangent as well. And so even in this little space, I'm going to avoid it by not fully connecting that line. And then, yeah, that's a tricky one because that is where the harness connects. So what I'm going to do is just not connect the line and let your imagination do that job for me. Tricky. Okay, so yeah, we're kind of getting there. Let's get another shoulder in here. Again, very much off screen here with whatever this is, but suggesting that she's also picked up this artifact of some kind on this adventure. Okay. So this hand probably could use a little more work, but I'm gonna roll with it. Since it's not essential to what we're doing. And then kind of same thing here, like the actual anatomy of like her bottom half is a little fuzzy, but I think we'll buy it. And so in that case, I am just going to block that in. And one thing that Clip Studio does well is just making things solid. Even though I lost my brush. Oh no. Did I lose my brush? No. Okay. All right. So what I would do with the rest of this is leave it for color or tone. So like, oops, her hair needs to get finished. But other than that, like the energy from the device and the portal, like I would do all that without line work, since it's, light and energy and, that kind of stuff. Now that I've got her arm in here, I also want to connect this stuff in here. Finish her hair. I don't know if anyone has seen the Super Mario movie, but I gotta say I loved it. And if you're of a particular age where you might have paused the Nintendo because there was no saving, to leave Mario on to go to school, not saying that that's me, but it definitely is, then yeah, they just hit every bit of what I was hoping for with that movie. And now my kids have fallen in love with it, and we have literally watched it 100 times in the last probably week. Or at least they have, and I can hear it on in the background, which is why I'm thinking of it right now. Let's see, what do I want the bottom part of her hair to be doing? And see, that gets kind of tangenty right there with that connecting right to the edge of that line. So that is something we want to avoid. So we'll just make it a little longer and going in this direction instead. Definitely the tangent police. Something along those lines. All right. All right. Well, thank you, Matt. No real reason to rush. This would be taking me like a week to get to this point. Well, see, this is the thing. So you've probably heard there's some, I'm going to butcher this phrase, but there's some version of this phrase. It's more in relationship to writing, but I would have written you a short letter, but I didn't have the time is kind of the sentiment. And I think that's kind of the case with all of this stuff. It's all about just the 10,000 hours or the time spent in practicing it, where it just becomes something that is less about struggling with the medium and just more about being able to express, something, whether that's with lines or words or anything else. So I am in the camp that firmly believes that drawing is not a talent; it's a skill. It's something anyone can learn how to do. And then the talent is how you apply it. So I think the ability to draw is something that anyone can do, but then your goal as an artist, in my opinion, in every medium is to then find your unique voice, your unique spin on the skill set that you develop. It's going to get really interesting when AI is there to help us every step of the way, but I think that will still apply. So now what I will do to kind of wrap this up for the evening at least is go into just a little bit of basic shading. I'm thinking less about color, but just to put a couple of tones down, maybe just one even, just to create a little bit of depth. And since we're in this kind of blue world, we'll keep it generally in the same realm, but I'm going to go more towards a gray tone. And there's actually two ways that I sometimes like to do this. One is you can go light to dark, which is what I'm going to do here. So we're basically starting with white, and then we'll put down some shadows. The other way to do it, which is also fun, is you can change the paper color essentially, or I would actually usually add a new layer to do this, but we make the paper color darker and then bring out the lighter tones. That's the other way to go. But in this case, I'm just going to go under the line art. And then one of my favorite things is to think about kind of the light source and what is going to get hit by that light source, and especially in kind of a limited palette, being able to try to create shapes and depth and form with just a couple of colors, like basically line work and typically kind of a color. Oh, you know what I also didn't do? Oops. Before I get to that, that top of her head is also, in my mind, meant to be hair. So this is going to be more like this. Yep, she's rocking that middle part. There we go. That makes a difference. And now we'll go to Shadowland. All right, so I'm going to go, as I often do, upper left to upper left is kind of our light source. And so now what I want to think about is, when we have things like hard-edged objects, how does that affect how the light hits it? And this will start to create the feeling that there's some additional depth in here. And so shadow will then be cast here and on this side of the gem. And then that is going to cast a shadow down below it here, as will each of these parts of the helmet. On the inside, and then as we kind of wrap around the corner of shadow hitting, so light will be hitting that edge, which means this, oops, what's going on with this? And this edge is getting hit, not hit, but not in the light. And then this is wrapping around her head, so we're kind of getting the edge of it in the light, but most of the rest of this is going to go in shadow. And then we can create a little extra depth by carving out kind of the edge of that piece of the crown as well. And then for her hair, also kind of being in shadow, but I'm going to give it kind of a little highlight there as it comes around. As well. And then on this side, it's kind of the opposite. So we have this edge in shadow and this edge in shadow, this edge, this little edge. So there we go. So when you take that and turn the line work off, you start to get something that feels quite a bit more dimensional. Whoops. Actually, I don't really need that on anymore. I will when we get to the portal piece, but up until that point, I don't need it. And then kind of the same thing with the glasses. I use this to create some depth, but also some bit of highlight for kind of the way that, it's very stylized, but the way that, of course, use the lightning bolt motif here as well. Whoops. and so forth. So let's see, we'll start with kind of shadow under nose and a little bit, oops, not that side, but a little bit cast by the glasses here. The bottom of the lip is going to be in shadow, whereas the top of the bottom lip will not be. But then we have shadow cast underneath that. And get the side of her face. Technically, we've got nose in shadow here too, but this is one of those kind of like creative license things where it may look better. So like theoretically, you would get something like this, but it also makes it so harsh that it's, may look better to kind of not go all the way there and just kind of let that be stylized a little bit more. This is where you get into a sexist drawing debate, because if it was a dude, we'd probably just go crazy with the shadows. And one of the things that I like to do is just pick out little highlights in like the hair here, so you're getting just a touch of like a little bit of light hitting before we go fully into shadow here. And then kind of the same thing on this side. Now we're kind of getting, and you can use the shadow color to also help create some more like detail and delineation here. And so forth. All right. Kind of into it. Like it when that happens. It's not always the case. So, if you've seen some of the recent pieces, including like the Nuclear Nerd one for Matt and the Bushido one for Dim Sum, and a couple of Moonbirds, well, one Moonbird that you've seen and another one that I'm working on as a commission. Like that's all in my kind of what I kind of consider my style at this point, which is this, kind of overlapping use of textures, and I'm pretty fascinated with that look and aesthetic and what it does, and kind of different than most of what I've seen out there. But this is actually one of the styles that I also use for stuff like this, where it's, not so much texture, but more about kind of creating this kind of stylized depth. A little more traditional comic animation kind of vibe, which is also fun. This was more of what I was doing before I landed on that kind of textured approach that I've been doing. And I've got some stuff which is kind of a combination of the two as well, which is also kind of fun. just trying to decide what tone I want this to be. But so I'm going to go darker on this part. And because it goes away from her body, so you get kind of less shadow there, but then more, then more as we kind of curve away. And then I want to kind of follow the contours of the wrinkles in her shirt a little bit. And here's where we get away with the fact that we didn't connect that line, because we just do it with the tone. Putting in a little clavicle action there. Actually, that would very much be in the light, but I'm going to put in some little stitches here. We didn't get to a patch, did we? We are going to do tats before we wrap up. If you're still hanging out, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out tonight. Thanks, Rommel. Thanks, Lady Valor. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you guys. And anyone else who's watching where you can't comment, appreciate you too. There you go. Some more lightning bolts in here. Little subtle, but we like it. All right. You're probably thinking not subtle at all, but all right. This is all away from our light source. So this is all just going to get darkened in, and I'm going to just cheat and grab the fill for that. There we go. And same down here. Just going to block this in. No, actually, no, that is going to be right. Getting there. So I'm going to leave this not shaded. If there was no light coming out of there, which we think there will be, then I would put in some shadow to kind of create the depth of that. You know, I don't know what we will even call that, but that portal generating area. But since there is going to be light coming out from there, then this is going to have a little bit of a gentler touch about it. And we'll deal with that at a later phase. So technically, if there's light coming out of here, that's going to change the whole lighting situation as well, but I'm not going to worry about that as much. Some light from up here. Okay. Oh, a little bit of hair left. Keep missing little bits of hair. So I think last thing for tonight is going to be some tats, and then I think we'll come back and finish up the portal stuff at maybe one more little session. All right. You know what could make this better? Oh, dropping some alpha. Yeah, I am going to share a little alpha at the end, as I promised at the beginning. If you stick with us till the very end, I'm gonna show something I haven't shown yet. That's gonna be the alpha for tonight. So what we're gonna do for tats, I think will work very well. We're gonna keep the shadow layer as is. Use the same color. I'm gonna go to a multiply, and then drop the opacity again. And then I'm just going to kind of freestyle this a little bit. So what were some of the suggestions for tats, or if you've got other ones, throw them in the comments right now. Let's see. She's if she's come to the kind of GSA world, then I feel like, it may just make sense to start with maybe one of the people that she met on her travels. I don't know if you can hear my son in the background, but something is making him very unhappy at the moment. All right, who else has a sleeve idea? Hey, Elias, what's up? Elias is a collaborator and friend who has a very cool animation studio who we worked on Creepshow with, amongst other fun things, with hopefully a lot more things to come. Anybody else? Let's see. Ideas for additional tats here. Now's your chance. Okay, checking the chat. Don't see anything. Crying 7-year-old. So, does she get a little tear? No. All right. Well, I'm just going to keep going along these lines then. Let's see if we go for, keep going with the theme of lightning bolts and such. Seems appropriate for Macroverse and therefore Macronauts. Someone's trying to break in. There's another little monster that she's encountered on her travels down here. Okay, who wants that sleeve? I want to see somebody get that. A Dead Town heart could be cool. Let's see. I don't know what a Dead Town heart is. All right, Max, sweetie. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of something right now. Trying to break down the door. All right. Say more about a Dead Town heart. I'm curious if you can. I like the idea of something Dead Town related for sure. Let's see. We'll go with the heart. And then maybe it's flaming heart. That is also suggests a zombie encounter. So that's to memorialize her burning up a zombie. A zombified heart. I gotcha. So let's keep with this idea. It's just, that's where she took out the brain, burned up the corpse. Bye-bye, zombie. This girl has seen some things. All right. Yes, she's been through it. I want to know what adventure this guy came from. But all right, then I think that's pretty much it for this evening. I will now switch over to the little bit of show and tell and update that I promised. Let me do what I always say to do, which is save. Just because I have just a little bit of vanity here, I'm also going to, I don't know why I'm always in the habit of don't leave until you've signed. What is this, 24? We have 23 or 24? Oh my gosh, my brain is having a moment. Really, truly, are we 23 or 24? This is 23, right? I really am genuinely asking this question. I can't believe that I am, but I am. I was having this moment a couple of days ago too. Am I having a senior moment now? I think that might be what's happening here. 23. Okay, that's what I thought. Man, I think too much talk of time travel and interdimensional travel. All right. There I am. There she is. Pausing there for a moment. So while we are screen sharing, I will show you guys very much a work in progress. So this is, yes, senioritis. Thank you, Elias. 23. Yes, 23. I thought so, but then for some reason, I just had this moment of like, but are we? So what I promised. So this is raw, but I want to show some progress specifically around the reading experience on the web. So we've talked a lot about kind of the tab story format. For anyone that doesn't know, we've invented this tab format for mobile. And what we haven't had a chance to show off a lot of is that we've also developed it for tablet and for desktop. And so whatever device you pick up, you're going to get the best kind of optimized experience of the particular title that you're reading. So I'm going to show you, this is real, platform development. You're going to see some missing images. You're going to see a couple of things that, aren't lined up quite right. So we're still kind of final bug testing, test minting, testing the back end, front end integration. So like you'll see some placeholder text and stuff like that. But this will give me a chance to show you what the reader looks like, what the episode reader looks like on desktop specifically. So let me stop sharing Clip Studio for the moment. One thing that is a little annoying about this streaming platform is it's not as easy as it should be to share a particular window. So I have to kind of like trick it into it. So let's see. Hold on on a second. There we go. All right. So as I said, you've got, kind of missing placeholder image here at the moment, but this is what the epics page looks like when you come to, one of the different series. And you'll be able to sort between everything in the collection and what you particularly own. If you own it, you can start reading it right from within here. If you don't, you can preview what's inside of it right from within the tile. So you get a little sense of this, which is very cool. But what I want to show you is, either being able to choose by episode, or in this case, continue where you were. But I'm going to choose episode 1 because I want to show you from the beginning. So you guys, many of you have seen, the mobile version of Dead Town episode 1. You probably haven't seen this beautiful widescreen version of it. So I kind of am starting to think of this as potentially the first comics for your TV that actually could make sense. But, I think it's pretty freaking cool to be able to tap through this, click through this in this full screen version of the story. And it lets us do things that are configured a little bit differently and put together a little bit differently as we come through the story, as we move through the, kind of tap format, and, play with kind of bigger, more cinematic images that, kind of create this really different type of canvas for storytelling, which I really quite love. So, there's an empty page. Still testing bugs. But, one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed this, it doesn't come across quite as clearly in the mobile version, which is also one of the things I love about this. You really get a different experience of the same material. But we designed this very specifically where, you've got this kind of family moment. So here in Dead Town episode 1, mom's in the foreground, the action is playing out over here. You've got almost 2 cameras in the room with, mom in the foreground here, mom in the background here. Dad and daughter are having this conversation, excited about this little bit of chicken that she's been able to get a hold of. And the whole time, both camera angles, this little bit of blood on her sleeve is growing. So if you're paying close attention, you start to realize, if I tap backwards, like that's, despite that missing image, you're getting more and more growth of that on the sleeve until he notices, and then and then reacts. So sorry about that. And you just get to have this very different kind of visceral experience of the story. I know you do, sweetie. Sorry. You got to give me another minute, okay? Yeah, but I don't want you to be scared by the zombies that I'm showing off. I know. Just give me another minute, sweetie. And then, this moment too, I think plays really nicely in the widescreen, where, you're kind of getting this, kind of very sad moment between dad and daughter as she's making this impossible choice, and this kind of, the interplay between the two of them through this sequence, down to what we would all hate to have to deal with. And then, moving into the next sequence again, I think there's something so cool about having it in the palm of your hand, but there's also something so cool about this kind of big cinematic canvas that we get to play with here, coming into a shot like this where you really get kind of the scope of the world and, moving around through that world as we introduce, what our main character here. So anyway, I just wanted to share that sneak peek. It's very exciting to me to be able to see this, now working completely, inside the actual app that we're building inside the platform. And can't wait for you to see what it looks like for Bushido's and Darklands and X11 and, all of the other series. They all get this widescreen presentation as well. So, quite excited about that, and I hope you are as well. So coming soon to a screen near you. And with that, we'll wrap it up for the evening, but I appreciate you guys hanging out. Yeah, it's going to be very cool. I appreciate you hanging out. Thanks for giving me suggestions for this Macronaut exploration. That was very fun to do, and even more fun with the suggestions and kind of input from you guys. So as always, really appreciate all of you. And there is, again, lots more to come. So I'll be back with something more, same time next week, same place. And between now and then, come into the Discord, discord.gg/macroverse. Interact on all the socials. You know where we are. And see you again next week. Everybody have a fantastic evening. And bye-bye.